But good one. I'm glad to see ito yung mga development na nangyari sa Pilipinas. Syempre, yan po ang kagandahan ng demokrasya, no? Medyo tayo may interesting debates, no? Talagang it takes a TULFO sometimes, no? It takes a TULFO to say certain things. Siguro, hinihintay natin matagal na magkaroon ng talagang masinsinan na pagsusuri dito sa mga posisyon ng ating senadora dun sa Committee on Agriculture, no, pagdating sa kanyang mga positions, so ano dapat mga gagawin natin sa farmlands, dapat mga gagawin natin pagdating sa ating agricultural policy, so on and so forth. So ito talagang kanina mga kameta, talagang ito na yan ang nami-miss natin sa Pilipinas ito mga substantive discussions, some would even say bardagulan, etc. etc. I'll talk about this bit shortly. Of course, bago tayo pupunta dito sa back and forth between not much super back and forth, but very interesting exchange between technically novice senator, no, Rafi Tulfo versus veteran senator, someone who was a candidate for Senate presidency, of course, Senatora Cynthia Villar. Before tayo pupunta dyan, pag-usapan natin ng mabuti mga kameta, no, ng mga mabilisan. Update tayo dun sa nangyari pala kahapon. Di ba pinag-usapan natin dun sa missile na nahulog sa Ukraine, di ba? Yung missile na nahulog sa Ukraine. Sa Poland. So, apparently, of course, yung accusation ni President Zelensky ng Ukraine was galing sa Russia yan. But in fairness to NATO countries, in fairness to Poland, nagkaroon sila ng talagang matinding pagsusuri doon sa ebidensya. At base doon sa mga nakita nila, mukhang ang nangyari talaga is it was not Russia behind it. So, woof! Yan, sigh of relief. Kasi talagang medyo nakakatakot. Biglang napaisip lahat anong nangyari dito. So apparently, ito mga kameta. So, it looks like accidental yung nangyari because yung missile defense system ng Ukraine, I think S-300 missile defense system, which by the way is a Russian Soviet technology, yung when it was shooting down itong mga Russian cruise missiles or some of the Russian missiles flying over them, yan ay accidentally nag-fall over sa kabilang border, no? Kasi of course Ukraine shares a big border with Poland, so it was a very unfortunate incident. So kudos sa NATO, sa Polish officials for being very responsible in dealing with the situation and not escalating it. Well, President Zelensky maintained that initially that this was really a Russian missile, and he called Russia a terrorist state. Very tough yung kanyang yung speech sa G20, and Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, really had to deal with this. But now at least you have a clarification na it was not a Russian missile at all. So medyo, ayan na, wala nang countdown sa World War III, at least for now. But obviously it tells you how delicate the situation is right now, in a sense that, sometimes even accidental, if a missile goes from one side to the other, damay-damay na yan. Napakadelikado yan mga kameta, no? So at least we have an update dito sa sitwasyon sa Ukraine, situation sa Europe. It looks like it was not a Russian missile after all. Now, obviously, gagamitin ng mga trolls at misinformation farms dyan, they'll try to portray, to spin this to make Ukraine look bad and say, oh, see, Ukraine is the warmonger, etc. But let's be honest, we're in the thick of war, in the fog of war. A lot of miscommunications, misdiagnostics, misanalysis could happen. So I think to also accuse Ukraine of deliberately trying to mislead the world or push them into war with Russia, I think that kind of also misses the point. Zelensky is trying to just protect his country, which has been under invasion, right? So, but then again, I just hope next time bago magkaroon ng ganyan accusations with very stark implications, talagang hintayin natin yung resulta ng mga investigations. No? So gladly, nagkaroon ng yung NATO hindi naghahanap ng direct war. Kasi kahapon pinag-usapan natin mga kameta na kung talagang Russian missiles yan, mukhang at the very least ang magiging response ng NATO is to impose a no-fly zone doon sa border areas, no? Doon sa border areas ng Poland and Ukraine. And that would be a massive escalation because that could potentially mean Russian missiles and fighter jets engaging their NATO counterparts. No? So yun na. So of course, medyo global tayo and local. So I just had to give an update on that because, again, as I said, we're watching very carefully what's happening all around the world while we're doing speeches, conferences, everything around the world also. No? Now, balikan natin itong issue na yan, yung back and forth between the novice senator, who is acting actually very, very professional, very proactive. In fairness to Senator Rafi Tulfo, I think he's definitely defying many critics, and I hope he continues on the current path in terms of what he's doing, in terms of upholding the rights of ating mga kababayan, and saying the difficult things that maybe some other senators are not comfortable in saying. No? So, ito po yung sinabi niya, no? Sabi ni Senator Tulfo, ayan na, daddy na tayo, di na natin mabasa. Eh, saan nga yung glasses natin? I-zoom ko na lang dito Actually, heated yung debate, no? Heated yung debate. Itong sinabi niya, lumit ng lumit po ang ating farmland, binibili po ng mga malalaking developer at ginagawang commercial at residential land. Obviously, you could see bakit this would not be taken in the best way by yung kabilang kampo because, of course, we know what's the what the main business, I'm from Isabela po at marami po akong maibibigay sa inyong ebidensya, proof na mga farmland na na-convert po sa subdivision. Ayon naman kay Senator Cynthia Villar, of course, you know the Villar, the whole real estate business, etc. Sabi niya, alam nyo, that's our business. They allow conversion in cities and capital towns because if they buy your land, they buy it expensive and you can reinvest the money and you will make more money than planting on those lands. You have to understand agriculture as a business also. Where will the people live if we don't build subdivision? Parang ibang klase yan. So lahat dapat nakatira sa subdivision. And lahat ba ng mga farmers na dislocate, are they properly compensated? Ako naman, mga kameta, ang concern ko rin of course dito is yung issue ng agricultural productivity natin. Kung lahat ng farmland natin ay maging subdivision, of course, yayaman dyan yung mga conglomerates, yayaman dyan yung mga real estate developers, mga contractors, so on and so forth. Kawawa naman yung ating bansa in terms of farmland productivity, di ba? Hindi naman pwede lahat di ba, lahat i-treat natin bilang business lang at alam natin kung business lang usapan, ang malaking kumpanya talagang may leverage dyan. Kawawa yung mga ibang farmers dyan. We have had of course a lot of reports or allegations that there was a lot of forcible expulsion or forcible appropriation of land of farmers. Some of them who didn't want to give up their land, apparently they were threatened. Again, these are reports and allegations, but they have to be properly investigated. So, to automatically assume na yung mga farmers na yan ay tuwan-tuwa to umalis dyan at pupunta sa yung pera na bibigay sa kanila ay sapat at makakabili sila ng subdivision or makapunta sila sa urban areas. Like, I'm not sure that captures the complexity of the situation. There are a lot of concerns about forcible expulsion. There are a lot of concerns about under compensation dun sa mga nag-agree eventually or willingly to give up their land to allow the developers to go ahead. But more importantly than that, mga kameta, mahalaga din dyan yung usapin agricultural productivity at kung lahat ng farmland natin ganun na nangyari, subdivision, saan na tayo gagawa ng sarili natin mga pagkain? Paano na yung agriculture industry natin? Paano yung food security natin? Ano mangyayari sa atin? Mga kameta, galing lang tayo sa Vietnam. Pag makita mo yung Vietnam, ang laki ng industrial base nila. A lot of our Samsungs, iPhones are being made in Vietnam. But at the same time, makikita mo rin, marami silang mga farmlands, marami silang investments sa farm, sa agricultural productivity. That's why 85 to 90% of our rice comes from Vietnam. That's why Vietnam is a global agricultural superpower. While they're rapidly industrializing and becoming a manufacturing powerhouse. At least in Asia, at least in Southeast Asia, as an alternative to China. So walang balanse dito, kung hayaan lang natin mga conglomerates to just treat everything about as profit, etc. And expect natin lahat na lang dapat sa subdivision. I'm not sure that's the best reflection of how we should address a complicated issue like this, including itong issue ng food security. Now, this should be dear to President Marcos because President Marcos is our agricultural secretary pa rin. By the way, mga may good news, at least mga DOH secretary, medyo may developments na dyan. Let's have a separate meta on that. But, di ba, wala pa tayong permanenteng agriculture secretary because aminado ang Pangulo natin na talagang kulang ang nangyari. May kapalpakan nangyari dyan sa agricultural policy natin for a very long time. Pinabayaan talaga. Kaya kawawa talaga tayo. Import tayo ng import. I mean, I feel offended na bakit tayo net importing sa mga basic staple foods, no, including rice, no, when in fact we have the conditions, we have the tropical climate, we have a long history of agriculture. Kulang talaga yung suporta ng gobyerno at kung hayaan lang natin mga conglomerates to turn everything to subdivision and make big profits out of it. Kamusta naman ang bayan natin? Kamusta naman ang mga farmers? Kamusta naman ang magsasaka? Kaya marami magsasaka, yung magsasaka yung mga anak nila. Kaya yung average age ng mga magsasaka natin is what? Beyond 50? I mean, there are many considerations there. That's why I'm saying in fairness to Senator TULFO, I think he's raising some very important issues. I'm trying to tingnan natin malabas natin itong ito talabas natin itong mga kameta. Maganda yan. Ito na naman, wala akong YouTube Premium, okay? May bayad yan. Lokana tayo, dito nagbabayad ng mga premium yan. Libre lang tayo dyan. Okay? Nasaan na? Ito. Watch natin ang mga kameta.
Look professional with GoDaddy. Let's say there are 2 new emails in your inbox. One from a legit-looking business, and one from whatever this is. Customers only...
Lumilit po ang ating farmland. Binibili po ng mga malalaking developer at ginagawang commercial at residential land. Ano po ang ginagawa ng DA tungkol dito?
Alam nyo, that's our business. I
Ganun
want
po
to
ba?
tell you that we don't buy agricultural land in the provinces. Nobody will buy houses in agricultural land. We only buy in cities and capital towns
Ganun po ba?
because the buyer of houses, they want also an opportunity that if they're having financial problems, they can resell their houses. And you know, it's very hard to resell houses not in cities or capital towns.
I'm from
so
Isabela
we limit ourselves in cities and capital towns.
I'm from Isabela.
They allow conversion
Alam ko nga
in
po.
cities and capital towns because if they buy your land, they buy it expensive, and you can reinvest the money and you will make more money than planting on those lands. So it's an investment decision for these people. If somebody will buy your land at a bigger amount, maybe you can sell it and buy another land that is cheaper somewhere else and build your farm there.
Hindi po ganun nangyari,
I think
ma'am.
it's the thinking of this. You have to understand agriculture as a business also. Where will the people live if you don't build subdivision?
Marami po mga lugar na pwede pong pagtayuan ng subdivision. Huwag lang po i-take over yung mga farms. Kasi nga po, kuminsan yung mga farmers, dahil sila po naghihikaos, they're being taken advantage of.
And that is the only time President Duterte became unpopular because rice is a political crop. When nagmamahal ang rice, nagiging unpopular ang president. And we have plenty of loans abroad and we have to pay higher interest for those loans, so it will be a loss to the Philippine government. I don't feel any guilt to the small farmers. All the money that came from the rice tarification law were given to the small farmers owning 2 hectares and below.
So how-
We need the residential area and the
Hindi
commercial
makasingit si
to
Tulfo,
improve the
talagang
quality of
dire-diretso si
lives
Mama.
of our people. Ang alam nyo, it's not the amount of farmlands. It's the efficiency of using these farmlands.
Ito mga kameta,
Hey,
Hindi
stop using these for...
Kainis to. Itong commercial na yan, wala tayong pang premium. So, nakita nyo guys, of course, again, let me be very clear. Whatever we said here is not directed at a particular company or side. I think Senator VILLAR was explaining at least their side of the business and that they're not interested in going to the provinces and taking over the farmlands and all of that. At least that's their claim for her side. Ang concern naman siguro ni Senator Tulfo dito is in general, no, we have a lot of private developers, contractors, maybe not conglomerates, but big businesses in certain areas, maybe not level A urban centers. We're not talking about Davao or Baguio or even Metro Manila, but there are many big, relatively big provincial centers whereby palaki at palaki, no? Lumalaki itong parang shadow of real estate development eating more and more into the farmlands and all. Ang akin naman, I also see where Senator Villar is coming in terms of the idea that because of the rice tarification law, whereby biglang binuksan natin, kasi dati ganito guys meron tayong mga quantitative restrictions, no, or limitations. Hindi pwede na mag-import ka ng import. Dapat limitado lang volume para hindi bugbog yung mga domestic producers. Ang ginawa natin para hindi maapektuhan yung mga consumers masyado, binuksan na natin na halos, free for all etong rice import system natin. So, dagsaan ito ng mga rice imports, which is great for Vietnam, which is great for a lot of our neighbors, etc. But kawawa yung mga local farmers. At the same time, sinasabi naman ni Senator Villar, I want to be fair here in terms of at least the argument, she's saying at least because meron naman special fund ang government kung saan yung mga taxes na nakuha niya or savings na nakuha niya dun sa cheaper imports ay pwede niya ibigay dun sa mga farmers. Now, there has been, we're talking about multi-billion pesos scheme, but I want to see studies that show that actually we have an efficient reallocation of funds and that our domestic agriculture industry is actually coping. I want to see we're really moving in the right direction. And as much as, of course, bilang mga consumers, gusto natin yung presyo ng bigas ay bumaba para hindi mahirapan ng taong bayan, ang gusto po rin natin dito mga kameta is yung ating agrikultura ay may long-term prospect. Yung ating mga magsasaka ay hindi kawawa at hindi bugbog. No? Ang gusto po rin natin dito is we not only think about profit, we also talk about food security, we also talk about compassion, humanity. We talk about the welfare of the farmers. People are vulnerable, etc. So I think that's where Senator Tulfo is also coming. But again, just to be very clear, I'm not sure about Senator Tulfo. I'm not sure. I definitely in my case, we're not pointing at a certain company or conglomerate. But at least Senator Villar had to clarify on her side. No, their company is not interested in like gobbling up farmlands here and there. But as I said, when it comes to her claims on the rice tarification law, I want to see more evidence and study that really shows our farmers are coping sufficiently and are resilient enough in light of all of these massive imports of agricultural produce, etc. Now, si Paolo Marcos recently, may statement siya, if I'm not mistaken, nakita ko lang parang kagabi no, habang nasa transit tayo and all of that, na parang he's optimistic na the prices of yung 20 pesos na marami nag-react doon at sinabi na imposible. Well, the president is saying maybe it's not as impossible. But of course, I understand why the president will highlight this issue because ito, again, I want to be fair here. Hindi naman tayo dito lang just to criticize one side or the other. Because the president, of course, inflation has been a big issue. It's also one of the biggest sources of dissatisfaction with the current administration. If you look at the Pulse Asia survey, yun yung area whereby majority had, misgivings about the government handling of the issue. Ako naman, parang unfair naman lahat i-blame kay Marcos. Bago pa lang siya, marami siya na-inherit. But President Marcos at least is claiming that we're getting closer. So, basahin natin yan. Because in certain areas, there is an access to rice as low as 25 pesos per kilogram. When I say low, I'm not saying it's cheap, but at least lower than 40 pesos or 35 pesos, no? So ito po yung pronouncement ni Pangulong Marcos dun sa pagbaba ng presyo ng bigas when there was a launch of Kadiwa ng Pasko project, no, aimed at providing public with access to affordable, high-quality agricultural commodities, no? So meron pong bagong initiative, no, ang ating gobyerno, itong Kadiwa ng Pasko. So I understand why the president also feels this is very important and we have to emphasize this. So the project was launched in Mandaluyong City. Of course, dito rin galing ating DLG Secretary. The President said Filipino consumers can now avail themselves of a kilo of rice at 25 pesos dito sa Kadiwa outlets anywhere in the country. obviously the question is how widespread this are. Kayo, mga kameta natin, mga nasa probinsya, nakikita nyo ba ito? Or please tell us if, what's the situation on the ground, no? Ayon kay President Marcos, we're getting closer to our dream of 20 pesos per kilo of rice, but slowly. We'll get to that too. So, yun po yung hope niya. Nagsalita po siya of course, in Tagalog. Ang sabi niya, English po ang binabasa natin. When buying rice sourced from the NFA, taken from the buffer stock, the NFA does not make a profit. They sell it at the same price they bought it. That's why you can see our rice is sold at 25 pesos. So, walang ano yan. Walang ano yan. Dagdag bawas, diba? Dagdag sa presyo, bawas sa quantity. Yan ang next level na dagdag bawas, no? So, ang sabi ng presidente natin, Kadiwa only brings cheaper... ito. So, of course, may mga... Wait lang Sorry medyo pagod tayo. I have to take a break na kasi grabe. Ilang hours na lang mga tulog natin. Move. I think this is the president, right? Okay, yeah, 30% cheaper po. Ito mga pinaprovide nila compared to market prices. Kadiwani brings cheaper goods for the people. All transport costs, all those kinds of things that have to be paid for are being shouldered by the government. Ito po yung sinasabi ni Pangulong Marcos, no? So ito po ay isang proyekto that involves the Department of Agriculture, no? To provide assistance. So sabi ni Pangulong Marcos, so I hope that some of this will help you to save money on the goods and for us to have a little Merry Christmas even though we're being beaten too much by various developments, including very high inflation na umabot sa 7.7% last month, no? Kaso guys, ang thing is, pag tinignan mo yung merkado guys, ito yung latest market monitoring of Department of Agriculture show that the price of many other commodities aside from rice is also quite high, no? So kasi hindi naman bigas lang ang kailangan ng taong bayan, kailangan din natin ng mga ibang basic goods including chicken, including yung mga other things na kailangan natin sa Noche Buena at sa ano natin. So having subsidized although limited amount of rice, bringing it down to 25 pesos per kilo, that's great. But we have to look at the broader picture because inflation is not just the price of the rice, it's also the price of many other basic commodities na yung mga pangangailangan natin on a daily basis, no? Alright, mga kamera, you can see medyo pagod na tayo. Medyo na-exhaust tayo. Try natin mag-catch up sa rest. Grabe yung schedule natin, mga kamera. Kahapon, no, after meta natin, go, sulat ulit, and then go airport, then from Danang, I had to go to Saigon. Ako po, ang tagal nung layover, 10 hours, grabe. So, kanina lang tayo dumating, sabi ko, habol ko na to, medyo na-excite tayo dito sa mga discussion na nangyari. So, again, mga kameta, just to be clear, we're not saying a certain company did this and that, but I think the concern of Senator Tulfo on the conversion of farmland into corporate profit machines is something that has to be taken into consideration. We have to have a proper look at it, and as I said, there are food security consideration also here, not aside from the very important issue of yung welfare ng ating mga magsasaka. So maraming salamat mga kameta. Thank you very much dun sa mga nag-join sa atin sa YouTube, sa Facebook. Parati tayo nagpapasalamat sa inyo dahil talagang kayo po yung dahilan na may pakitayo na talagang kahit pagod na pagod tayo, we still go and spend time on this sabaw na. Actually, I wanted to say more on the TULFOs, on agriculture policy, but I'd rather end on this note because I'm sure there'll be other opportunities, God willing, to have even more extensive discussion about this. So yun at least there's a limited initiative by the government to deal with the rice price increases or yung on affordability issues. And at the same time, meron kang mga senators katulad ng TULFO are asking the tough questions or saying the tough things. Sometimes, as I said, it takes the TULFO to say it. And so far, I'm saying both TULFOs, Erwin Tulfo as the DSW secretary and Rafi Tulfo as our senator, in fairness, I think they have been defying many of the worst fears of their critics, etc. And let's hope they'll continue the good job they're doing on many fronts. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I hope to see more of this. So maraming salamat sa ating mga kameta. Let's continue this conversation. Magpahinga lang ako. I hope fresh pa rin tayo kahit hindi dito. Mas fresh dito. Okay. Alright, thank you so much. Talk to you soon. God bless. Oh, by the way, mag-thank you tayo, of course, kay Ma'am Jocelyn Lomberio, Eden Olonan, Riz Annie. Thank you so much sa lahat ng bigay ng star and support. Ayan, dami mga nagmamahal sa atin. Thank you kay Heidi Calao for joining us. Welcome back din sa akin. Okay. Sabi ni Mark Mendoza, well, TULFO is doing TULFO things. But you know, the TULFO things sometimes are very important. And they're doing a good job, in fairness to them, no? Judith Grosbe Thomas, thank you for joining us. Noemi Tablat, as always, thank you for joining us. Kay Michael Uy, Sir Michael Uy, thank you for support and joining us. Kay Annabel Gamoras, also as always. Kay Morales Melona for joining us. Thanks again kay Vida May Soriano. Ang dami. Ito si Vida, maraming comments yan parati. Yan. Si Ernie Carpe, isa bang regular natin dito. May sasabihin ako pero wag na. Hindi, joke lang. Mamaya na tayo magbardagulan. Okay! Maraming salamat. Magpahinga na tayo. God bless. Thank you very much, guys. Talk to you soon. Maraming salamat. Thank you, guys. Maraming salamat. I-upload ko yung version na meron din mga videos na nakala. Pasensya na. Hindi ko malagang YouTube ko dito at minsan na. Pero i-upload ko na. So, thank you very much for joining us. Sa mga comments, suggestions, stickers. Parang wala Yun lang. Yun lang talaga. Yun lang. Pilipinas. Only in the Philippines. Thank you. God bless po. Talk to you soon.